When you're just growing up, every day is a new discovery. But nothing David Freeman has ever experienced will prepare him for the adventure that lies ahead.
Sit down.
I think there's been some sort of mistake.
Your brain contains data necessary to get me and my friends home.
I'm just a kid.
You are the Navigator.
Walt Disney Pictures presents a new adventure fantasy.
What are you doing?
Above and beyond the ordinary.
Take me back!
Okay.
Oh, no!
Flight of the Navigator. His mind is the key to an adventure on the most fantastic hot rod in the universe. A story of a spaceship.
That flying saucer's first rate.
Be cool, dudes.
A friendship.
I'm gonna miss you.
I'm going to miss you, too.
And an experience beyond imagination.
Don't you want to take a turnpike?
I'm the Navigator.
Flight of the Navigator. Disney's new adventure fantasy.
Tina! Bring me the axe!
Put your right hand in the box.
Sour-tasting berry!
You want to see dry land?
No more Mr. Nice Duck.
Shogun.
Gordon's alive. You talking about the damn shark's mother?
Welcome to Cherry Bombs, the underappreciated movies podcast. This is the show where we rip the scarlet letter off some unfairly maligned movies. I'm Dustin.
This is Nick.
And this episode, Flight of the Navigator, the 1986 sci-fi time travel alien abduction family film about a boy and his spaceship, which speaks to him in the voice of Pee Wee Herman. What's not to love about that?
Right.
What's your first experience or your first memory of this movie?
So I did see this in the theater. My mother did take me to go see this. Yeah. Movies like that, if it was anything that was, kid related in terms of Labyrinth, anything from it's such a weird range that you would take us to. It was anything from Labyrinth, Flight of the Navigator to Steel Magnolias. So it's quite the range of movies that my mother would take it to. So, but yeah, no, I did see this in the theater, although I have not actually seen this movie. I want to say, oh my God, in 20 years, I think.
Wow. So watching it for this was the first time you've seen it in 20 years.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to discuss the differences in memory.
Yeah.
For me, it was VHS again. We rented it with Howard the Duck.
Ooh, what a weekend.
And I guess that was when I was about 10 years old. So it was, again, perfect age for both those movies. And I had the video release poster up on my bedroom wall for years.
Oh, wow.
So to understand kind of where Flight of the Navigator falls in the Disney catalog, we kind of have to look way back to the beginning of live action Disney movies, because Disney is mainly known for animated movies. Even to this day, people think Disney, I don't know, maybe not anymore, but I think people think Disney, they think animated films.
I would agree with that. Even the Marvel movies, even though they're under the Disney umbrella, I don't think people, call the Avengers movies Disney films.
Yeah,
so I think
I don't
you're
think
right
anybody
about that.
thinks of Marvel movies or Star Wars movies as Disney movies. I think they think of those as Star Wars movies and Marvel movies.
Walt Disney, whose artistry marked a new era in motion picture entertainment, now sets a new milestone with his first all-live action feature, Treasure Island, the story which thrilled 200 million readers throughout the world.
They say Disney films, it's always animated films for the most part. But there were, of course, a lot of live action films all the way back to 1950 with the very first one, which was Treasure Island.
Right.
And through the 50s and 60s, there's a lot of boys' adventure films like Davy Crockett, Johnny Tremaine, Swiss Family Robinson. And in the 60s, they started adding in comedies like Herbie, that kind of thing. Animal pictures like Shaggy Dog and Gus with Don Knotts.
And even things like Kurt Russell back in the day where he's the computer who wore tennis shoes and things like that.
A high-speed computer accidentally drains its brain into a not-so-bright campus clown who becomes a socket-shocked human computer.
Computer wore tennis shoes and a twinkle in his eye. That turned on uptight, that on-site totally together computer and tennis shoes.
They kind of turned a corner of quality and production value, and I guess you could say seriousness of vision with movies like The Black Hole in 1979 and Tron in 1982.
Tron, an astonishing adventure odyssey.
that allows the eye to behold what only the imagination can reveal. Tron, its world awaits on the other side of the screen.
Neither of which, incidentally, were box office successes, but both great movies. But I don't know. I think that was the point at which Disney became a more interesting, serious live action studio. This was even before Touchstone Pictures and Splash and all that stuff.
Right.
They had started doing joint productions with other studios for broader types of movies, like Dragon Slayer and Popeye. They would team up. In those cases, it was with Paramount Pictures. And by the time of Tron, they were starting to actually make really interesting, unique movies like Never Cry Wolf and Journey of Natty Gann, Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Man, I used to love that. I wonder if that still holds up.
My name is Mr. Dark. I advise you to respect it.
Ray Bradbury's fantasy tale of light and darkness is getting closer. Something wicked this way comes.
And Return to Oz.
Wow, I haven't seen that in forever, too. Wow.
That's a movie that it's worth doing a show on, because that was a sort of notorious bomb, and it's a movie that scared a lot of kids, which is, that alone makes it good enough to do a show on.
Right.
But none of these movies set the box office on fire. But a lot of them, just like we were saying with Return to Oz, a lot of them had a huge impact on kids of the generation that saw them. And I think Flight of the Navigator is definitely one of those movies. It had a huge impact on me.
Walt Disney Pictures' fantastic new adventure.
You are the Navigator.
Flight of the Navigator in the West End and all over London now.
So I don't know that it was technically produced by Disney. I think it was actually shot as an independent film, and then it was picked up for distribution by Disney. Of course, it has the Disney logo at the beginning, and people think of it as a Disney movie now. It's kind of...
Yeah. But yeah, there's really not much on the making of this. There should be.
To date, as we record this, there hasn't really been a contemporary DVD documentary, or there was a commentary track, which we'll talk about a little bit of what we gleaned from the commentary track. But outside of that commentary track on the Australian Blu-ray release, there isn't really a lot out there about the making of this film. So the film was directed by Randall Kleiser, who has a pretty impressive filmography. Of course, he directed Grease, not the good one, not Grease 2.
That is true.
Blue Lagoon.
I do want to point out that the when Kleiser did direct Grease, it was in large part because of Travolta's recommendation based on their work together in The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. And the reason I say that is because I have an opportunity to say The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. Because I remember I was being forced to watch that movie as a kid, and I was just like, that's horrifying.
I was wondering why you brought up Grease and a trivia about Grease.
I don't know if I'll have another opportunity, so here it is. The Boy in the Plastic Bubble.
You know what really bugs me?
What?
Well, when they discovered the tumor, I was too young for girls, you know?
Yeah.
And now that I'm old enough, I can't do anything about it. And I think of all my friends out there going to drive-ins and making out and getting all that action.
Roy,
Yeah?
do you ever, you know...
All the time.
Me too.
He also directed White Fang for Disney and Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Probably the most notable movie for us, besides Flight of the Navigator, as kids, he directed Big Top Pee-wee.
Yes.
Hello! Welcome to the set of my cool new Paramount motion picture. This film's got everything. Thrills, chills, romance. That's right. It's a sexy love story between me and not one, but count 'em, two beautiful women.
Which is a very underrated Pee-wee movie. It's not Pee-wee's Big Adventure, of course, but certainly when you see what came along later, Pee-wee's Big Holiday, which was just unwatchable Netflix movie. Big Top Pee-wee was a I don't even know if we appreciated it as much as we should have when it came out, but it definitely holds up.
Yeah.
Excelity!
And his connection with Pee-wee came from Flight of the Navigator, I think.
I would think so.
Randall Kleiser was also a roommate of George Lucas.
Yes. He appeared in one of Lucas's student films.
Can you imagine being George Lucas's roommate? That's like the most low-key college roommate you could possibly get. You scored big time.
Right.
If you get George Lucas as a roommate.
Oh, man.
Flight of the Navigator was written by two guys, Michael Burton and Matt McManus, from a story by Mark Baker. None of these guys really went on to have any credits that I could find. Mark Baker did something called Lifeform, which I've never heard of. Michael Burton did Shoot to Kill, and I think a TV movie. And Matt McManus has nothing else on his filmography. So it's weird.
Yeah.
The score was composed by Alan Silvestri, and we could do a whole show on Alan Silvestri and the magic of Alan Silvestri. There's so many great scores that he composed. A lot of stuff for Zemeckis. He's like Zemeckis' go-to guy. Back to the Future, Castaway, Contact, Roger Rabbit, Romance in the Stone, Forrest Gump. But beyond that, he did the great score for the classic The Abyss, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. He did Predator, which is a really good score.
Yeah.
Judge Dredd, which is a good score.
Yeah.
Underrated. Judgment Night.
Judgment Night, yeah.
And Alan Silvestri scored the E.T. knockoff Mac and Me.
Mac and Me, all right. So everything from Mac and Me up until, like, you know, Avengers Endgame recently now.
That's right.
You know, I mean, he's on everything.
All over the map.
It's wild.
Interesting score for this movie, too, because it was all done it was an entirely electronic score using a device called the Synclavier, which is one of the first digital multi-track recorders and samplers. So, yeah, it does sound very 80s, but I like that. I actually really like the score in this movie. The director of photography was James Glennon, who has worked with Alexander Payne on two of his best movies. He shot Election and Citizen Ruth. The film was edited by Jeff Gorison, who edited Big Top Pee-wee for Randall Kleiser. Tron.
Excellent.
Can't Buy Me Love.
Oh, wow.
And The Incredible Shrinking Woman.
Oh, Lily Tomlin.
So let's talk a little bit about the cast of Flight of the Navigator.
Sure.
The star, of course, Joey Kramer.
His full name is actually, I'm going to probably mispronounce this, but he's actually got a long name. It's Delirious Joe August Fisher Kramer. It's kind of different. I mean, he was born in Vancouver, so I'm not really sure. I don't know if his parents were like flower children or something that they decided to go with 5 names there. I don't know. What is Delirious? Like, what is that? Where is that? Is that French? Might be French if he's Canada.
Could be French Canadian.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was in Clan of the Cave Bear with Daryl Hannah, which is a really weird movie.
Daryl
Hannah.
No, but he's also in Daryl.
He's a mystery and a miracle.
He's just a little boy, flesh and blood.
With a past he doesn't remember.
Daryl is an experiment in artificial intelligence.
Are you really my mom and dad?
The government designed him.
You're asking us to destroy a child.
Now they want him destroyed.
The Youth Life Form project as of now is terminated.
Paramount Pictures presents Daryl.
What? He was not in Daryl.
D period, A period, R period, Y period, L period.
Yeah. That was Barrett Oliver. That wasn't Joey Kramer.
Yeah, he was in it.
What was he doing in Daryl? I didn't see him listed in Daryl.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
It's Johnny Klein.
What?
Yeah.
Joey Kramer was in Daryl.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Where are you getting this information from? IMDb? That seems dubious, but I'll take your word for it.
Let me see here. Full cast and crew. Pretty sure I read that right. Let's see here.
We're talking about Joey Kramer, not Delirium Joey Kramer.
Maybe
you're looking at the wrong
Joey
Kramer.
Joey Kramer. Let me see. I'm gonna look up his name specifically on here. So Joey Kramer. Really, he's not in Daryl. I really thought he was in Daryl. Why was I so certain that he was in Daryl? Let's see. I'm going into Daryl now. See if I can find out who the hell Johnny Klein is. Watch, there's not even a Johnny Klein in here.
Where did you get Johnny Klein from?
Where the hell did I find that? That's really annoying. Shit. He is not. No one go looking for him in Daryl. I don't think he's in Daryl. Everybody just completely disregard. I don't know where I got my info on that one. We'll forget about that.
It's only human to make mistakes, but Daryl never does.
Also in the cast, Paul Reubens, who we all, of course, know as Pee Wee Herman. He was the voice of Max, the drone UFO. Although he's credited...
He goes under Paul Mall.
Credited as Paul Mall.
Which is so weird because...
Everybody knew it was Pee Wee, but he called himself Paul Mall. Even as a kid, I'm like, well, that's obviously Pee Wee Herman. Why is he called Paul Mall? I read that he wanted to go under a fake name because he didn't want people to think of Pee Wee. But then he does the Pee Wee voice for half the movie.
He does the Pee Wee voice. The majority of it is the laugh, specifically. But yeah, which is, I mean, it's not even like they're disguising it. Like, it is the Pee Wee laugh. There's no.
So we need to touch on a few Paul Reubens movies. Of course, everybody knows Pee Wee's Playhouse, the show, and Pee Wee's Big Adventure, the classic movie, and Big Top Pee Wee, of course. Everybody knows Pee Wee, but Paul Reubens has done a lot of other really interesting stuff and some great movies on top of it. He was in Batman Returns at the beginning.
Yes, he was the Penguin's dad.
He was in Matilda. He was he had small parts in Blues Brothers. He was in Mystery Men, which was one of the great missed opportunities. Mystery Men, I think. Such an amazing cast.
Yeah. Also, he was Nightmare Before Christmas. He was the voice of Locke, Lock, Stock, and Barrel on there. So
he did a lot of voice work. He did Rebels, Star Wars Rebels. He did Tron Uprising, that really great animated show, which is still not on official Blu-ray or DVD release, which is really a shame because that is a spectacular animated series. He played himself. Well, he played Pee Wee in Back to the Beach. At Funicello. If we ever do a Cherry Bomb show about, maybe we do an episode sometime about movies that we thought were going to be Cherry Bomb episodes until we rewatched them and realized that they're actually terrible.
And only one movie will have Christy McNichol and Christopher Atkins singing and swinging their way through time in the biggest, most original movie in 100 years, the Pirate Movie.
The movie also stars Clifton Young as the dad, Bill. He was in The Craft, Glory, FX, Dr. Giggles.
FX is where I really remember him from.
I don't think I ever saw that. Is it any good?
FX is great. Actually, I liked 1 and 2, which is cool just because it was, it's a story about a guy that works in the visual effects business and he gets caught in this murder mystery, so he uses his special effects to kind of thwart the bad guys, which is, kind of fun and interesting. It's Brian Dennehy's in it.
Oh, Brian Dennehy, side story. I was reading Steve Guttenberg's biography the other day, as you do. There's a story about Cocoon, and the very last day of shooting Cocoon on the boat with all the old people, a male actor threw a fit when he got called out of his trailer too soon, so severely that Ron Howard and Brian Grazer banned him from the set, kicked him off the set on the last day of the shoot of Cocoon.
What?
And apparently, all the oldsters were absolutely disgusted at his behavior. So it's not me saying that Gutenberg did not name names, but process of elimination. It sounds like it's Dennehy.
Oh my God.
If you don't believe me, the Gutenberg Bible by Steve Guttenberg.
Why is there so much chaos on the set of Cocoon? What is going on? Why are people so mad?
I guess he almost came to blows with somebody over it.
Oh, please let it be like Don Amici, because that would be
Jessica Tandy.
Jessica Tandy. The old bitch. Don't make me come out of my trailer.
Veronica Cartwright was also in Flight of the Navigator. One of the biggest names in Flight of the Navigator, maybe at the time, the biggest name in the movie.
She's been in so much good stuff.
She's been in so many classics. Alien, obviously. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the Philip Kaufman version. Kinsey, where she played Liam Neeson's mom. She's in Witches of Eastwick, and a great role in Witches of Eastwick. And, of course, The Right Stuff and The Birds, one of her early roles. Sarah Jessica Parker, not her debut performance, but prior to this, she was in Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Footloose.
Two of the finest Tim Burton movies of all time, Mars Attacks and Ed Wood.
Yes.
Honeymoon in Vegas. And, of course, beyond all that, everybody knows her best, probably, from her television work on that influential TV classic, 3, 2, 1 Contact.
3, 2, 1, contact is the secret, is the moment, with everything happening. 3, 2, 1, contact.
The little brother was played by
Matt Adler. Teen Wolf. He was Lewis in Teen Wolf.
And Teen Wolf. Dream a Little Dream. Amazon Women on the Moon, one of the great underappreciated comedies of all time. Whitewater Summer.
Oh, the Kevin Bacon classic.
For me, probably my favorite Matt Adler movie outside of maybe Teen Wolf and Navigator, North Shore.
Every young person has a dream. Making it come true is the challenge.
I don't want to be some wrinkled up old geezer, 40 years old, watching a surf contest on TV and going, yeah, I was good, I could have done that.
For surfers, North Shore is the place. Gregory Harrison, Mia Peoples, and Matt Adler.
Why do you hate contests so much?
Bring out the worst in the human animal.
So is it like the Karate Kid but with surfing?
It's Karate Kid but with surfing. Exactly. Exactly. I think Greg Harrison was the Miyagi character. Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it.
And that was written by Randall Kleiser.
Yes, Randall Kleiser wrote and produced North Shore. This the sort of villain, Howard Hesseman as Dr. Louis Faraday. Of course, everyone knows him from WKRP in Cincinnati. Maybe more so for us, head of the class.
Head of the class, yeah. Well, not only head of the class, but yes, in television for sure, as Mr. Moore. But if you want to get a little bit more into our wheelhouse of where we remember him from, he played the brother of Eric Lassard from Police Academy.
Police Academy 2.
Yes.
Their first assignment.
And if you notice, we're connecting dots in this thing because he's in Police Academy, who was with Steve Guttenberg, who was with Brian Dennehy. So it all connects.
Also, he was in Amazon Women on the Moon, which also had Steve Guttenberg in it. And I believe he starred in the Amazon Women segment with Matt Adler. North Shore's Matt Adler.
Wow.
So it's like 6 Degrees of Howard Hesseman, really. Also, he was in Tarantulas, the Deadly Cargo, which we mentioned last episode on the Jaws 3 episode. I find that as we continue to do these episodes, there's more and more weird connective tissue between actors, and we keep seeing the same titles coming up. And although I will say I could not, for the life of me, find a Leonard Part 6 connection this time. Might be out there. I think it might be the first movie that we've done that we do not have some kind of Leonard Part 6 connection for. Doesn't mean we can't still play the clip.
This is true.
See the world's favorite funny man, Bill Cosby.
All right.
In Leonard Part 6, an adventure in comedy, rated PG.
Let's dig into the movie, shall we?
Sure. Let's do it.
Opens with a silver disc sailing through the air, which we're sort of led to believe is a UFO, and then it's revealed to be a frisbee, and we get into this dog frisbee catching competition. In 1978, South Florida, we meet the main character David, played by Joey Kramer.
Watch how long he doesn't take off.
Watch this one.
So we meet him. He's trying to teach his dog Bruiser how to catch a frisbee and not having much luck.
Drop it. Let it go, Bruiser. Let it go. Let it go.
We meet mom and dad. And the little brother. We know the little brother is a jerk right from the beginning because he's insulting the dog.
Right.
That dumb dog will never learn to catch a frisbee. He will soon, don't call him dumb.
Just snotty.
Yeah, snotty brat. A little bit of misdirection as a blimp flies overhead, casting a shadow. Ooh, we all assume it's a UFO again. It's not. Second fake out. Second of several fake outs, actually.
Just a Goodyear blimp.
They head home from the competition. I believe in that scene they're playing a song from Grease on the radio.
Yeah, I believe so too, right.
A Randall Kleiser Easter egg.
Yep.
There's a little bit of a father-son scene where David is sort of peeping through a telescope.
So, you do have a crush on Jennifer Bradley?
Nah, not really. I barely even know her.
Yeah, he's a peeper. I guess you could say that because he is using a telescope to look at her.
I got some issues with David. I had forgotten some of his more unsavory qualities.
Well, you just have to try to strike up a conversation. Hi, how you doing? That's a nice bike. If you're going to learn to swim, you just got to jump in the water.
I guess.
It's unlike parents who are mean to their kids or something like that. They have an unhappy childhood. Like this is actually like a very well put together family. Everybody likes each other.
Yeah, I think the fact that the family is very loving and that he does have such an idyllic childhood will come into play later on.
Yeah,
when he has the choice of to make at the end of the movie. So Veronica Cartwright asked David to go out and find his little brother, who she is worried got lost on the way home through the woods. So David heads out into the woods. He admits that he's having an existential crisis to his dog.
I don't know my real problem. I don't know what I want out of life anymore. As a young dog, you might find that hard to understand, but...
He's an unsettled youth. He's not quite sure what direction his life is going at the age of 12.
Right.
So he investigates something at the bottom of a ravine. He hears something or he senses something. And as he's peering over the edge, he tumbles into the ravine and he's knocked out.
He wakes up and then he goes back out through the woods and heads back home. Now something's just a little bit off. He gets back to his house and he can't get in. Now the door is locked. So he's pounding on the door and this older woman opens up the door.
Who are you?
Who are you?
I'm David. I live here.
Think you have the wrong house, dear.
This is older couple. He's just like, these silk nightgowns that he encounters. That's what old people wear in nice houses, silk robes, And he's just like, "Where's my parents?"
He runs upstairs and finds this creepy old guy in a robe lounging in his bedroom.
Yeah.
What's the problem, son? What's your name? Where do you live?
Please. Where's my mom and dad?
Janet, call the police.
Yeah, they call the cops, and then he's at the police station, and he's explained to him, who I am, who his parents are, and then they kind of realize that, oh my God, this kid's been missing for 8 years.
Have we located the parents?
Yes, but Phil, look at the date.
What about it? Must be a typo.
I ran it through the computer 3 times. That's no mistake. He was declared legally dead.
And so the cops decide that they're going to take him to where his parents actually are, which is now seems to be a little bit less fancy of a house. Like now that within these 8 years, they've somehow lost money. And
looking for him.
They spend money on advertising.
Printing, yeah. Because they said later that Matt Adler has to post those flyers all over town.
All over.
Printer ink is expensive.
We lost our house. Yeah, your dad had to quit his job because we're looking for you. now they're in this smaller house that he's escorted to by the police. But they remember him. It's just like one of these reunions, like he was kidnapped by some pervert or something and escaped from the house, and they're like, "Oh my God, where have you been?" And,
oh my God!
Thank God.
They're old. They're just like,
they look terrible.
Terrible. I mean,
poor
they look
Veronica
like
Cartwright.
Oh my God, she looks like she hasn't slept in these 8 years. Just like just like she.
That is the very definition of haggard,
right? I'm really gonna go on a limb, but she reminds me of like I picture her like the uncle from One Crazy Summer who sits by the radio, just waiting for this phone call from David. Like, come on, David, come home. I'm just waiting for that phone call that somebody's found you. Just sitting there heavily smoking, chain smoking, and just the crow's feet in the mouth and the eyes are just getting worse. But yeah, she looks just like she's coked out.
It's not been a good 8 years on Veronica Cartwright. The dad just looks pasty and pale, but she looks like she's been through hell.
But of course now David is still the same age, but obviously this is even though the parents look like they're 30, 40 years older, only 8 years have gone by.
They've been through a lot in that 8 years. So meanwhile, NASA is investigating a UFO that has crash landed nearby, and this is where we meet Howard Hesseman
as Faraday,
as Dr. Faraday. He's the NASA official of some kind. They never really say exactly what his role is, as far as I can remember, but he has tremendous weird authority that we'll find out later on.
He's the in charge guy.
Any signs of life? Not outside, but we haven't been able to determine what's inside. Well, something must have flown it. This could be our first contact. She's beautiful.
The ship, to describe it always reminds me of like one of those little shell fancy soaps that no one ever uses.
Yeah.
Like in one of those bathrooms.
Yeah, in your grandma's bathroom.
But it's like one of those little pink shell soaps that you just don't use.
Sure is a pretty piece of space land. It was flying along, then it just smacked right into the tower and dragged it about 100 yards. Then it stopped and it's floating here.
Meanwhile, David is admitted to a hospital for tests, and we find out that his little brother is now older than him.
This is totally rad. I mean, you're my big little brother.
Jeff, I'm scared.
We'll figure something out.
This is really challenging, scary stuff for kids, this concept of disconnection from family. And I think that's one of the reasons this movie has such an impact on kids and continues to resonate, continues to be a memorable movie experience. So NASA transports the ship under a tarp to its research facility. It tries to cut it open, but they can't break through. And at the same time, David's starting to hear voices. So David's wired up and questioned by one of the most terrifying psychologists I think ever put on screen. The old lady.
Oh, God.
And she's some sort of like Eastern European accent and this dead look in her eye.
David, what time did you enter the woods?
It's horrifying.
So memories are start flooding back, and his brain's communicating directly with the computer now in like binary code, somehow sending the schematics of the UFO in like an alien language directly to the computers. The hospital apparently has a direct line to NASA because they fax them over like a printout, or they fax over the data and NASA prints out the picture of the UFO.
Dr. Faraday, I think you should take a look at this. Where did this come from? From the mind of a 12-year-old boy?
So Howard Hesseman comes to the hospital and proposes to David that he come to NASA for further tests.
No way, I'm not going.
David, I can offer you the truth. All I need is 48 hours, just 2 days, at the base, with me and my staff alone. No confusion, no distraction. And then, David, you can go home and put all this behind you. That's what you want, isn't it?
Yes.
So they show David to his room at NASA, and he gets some sweet presents, including, and I looked very closely at the shots here, so I identified a couple of products here that they gave him. The G.I. Joe Cobra water moccasin.
Awesome.
Which is now going for $190 on eBay. So that thing is worth some cash. Also, they gave him a Transformers Insecticon shrapnel.
Man. But David is a smart kid, so he completely knows that this room is full of shit because he notices right away. He's like, "Hey, there's no phone in here. You said I could call my parents," and there's like a completely obvious two-way mirror in his room, which again he doesn't fall for that. He knows exactly where he's at. So
he flips on the TV and there's a music video on there, which is a new concept to him. And I looked into this. It's a band called, it's an English synth pop band called Blamage.
Blamage. Great name.
And the video's for a song called Lose Your Love. And I'm now obsessed with Blamage. That is a great song by itself, but they have some good stuff. So Ralph enters, which is a giant boxy rolling robot. One of many in a line of great robots from the 80s, like comedy robots like Jinx and Space Camp.
Like Jinx, yeah, exactly.
So Ralph stands for Robotic Assistant Labor Facilitator, and he delivers mail and supplies.
I mean, just a little box on wheels. Just a mail slot, and then like the sides open up like a DeLorean.
Right. And then we meet Sarah Jessica Parker, who comes in behind Ralph.
Hi, I'm Carolyn McAdams. You gotta be real hungry after your trip, right?
Like, we don't know if she's the maid, we don't know if she, like, cleans his room or whatever, but...
She's some kind of intern.
So, who did you murder to put here maximum security?
No one. I'm a national security secret.
Oh.
So testing continues. NASA has seemingly, again, like the hospital, has mind-reading computers. And they pull this data buried in David's head out, and it starts to fill the screens with data in an alien language and star charts, and they somehow connect the dots to realize that David was abducted and taken into outer space to somewhere called Phalon.
Yes.
Sir, I think he's downloaded. Wait.
My God, these are uncharted systems.
Our computers don't contain this information.
David, is this Phelan?
I don't know. Let me out of here.
David! David!
David starts hearing voices again.
The ship once again is talking to him, and...
Yeah, it's the ship talking to him again, this time asking for help.
Help you? How? Yes, I'm coming.
So David smuggles himself out of his room inside the Ralph robot, and it takes him to the hangar where he finds the UFO, which opens up, and the steps actually open up, done via old school claymation, not CGI this time. It's old school claymation. He climbs up into the ship, and the cool thing about that is not only are the steps claymation, but then there's an in-camera trick that Doug Henning, the magician, had given tips to the production on how to create this illusion using a steel bar that is going away from the camera. So the steps themselves are blocking the steel bar, and it's framed in just a way that it looks like they're suspended in air.
I wonder at what point in his career he would give away that secret, because like, isn't your like career based on like not telling people how you levitate stuff on stage, and here you are just spilling your secrets too.
He probably didn't expect that they were going to reveal it on a commentary track.
Right.
So he gets inside the ship, and the inside of that ship is so cool. It's all metal, and there's like little glinting light that seems to be emanating from the walls of the ship itself. The whole thing is reflective, which apparently slowed the shooting down considerably because they're constantly reflecting the camera crew and everybody in the shots.
Who's that?
Sit down, Navigator.
Are you the one that's been calling me?
Affirmative. You have the information I require to complete my mission.
So there's a glowing eye in the ship that speaks to David, referring to him as the Navigator. And this is the voice of Paul Rubens in a non-Pee-wee voice starting out here. And the eye detaches from the wall, cranes out on an arm to actually interact with David. So it's puppeteered. Then we learn that David's brain has been programmed with star charts that the ship needs so that it can return home.
You mean that's why my brain has been coming up with all that stuff?
Yes. You are the Navigator.
NASA security realizes that David's missing, and they mobilize all the security guys with their guns. They discover he's in the ship.
They've got guns.
Protective hover is advised.
Will that shut the door?
Affirmative.
Okay, let's do that. But if anybody asks, you're the one that did it, okay?
Compliance.
And so the ship kind of breaks free. It's like held down by like chains and weights.
Because it's floating. It's completely floating.
Yeah. And so it pulls hard enough where the chains break and it starts to move out of the area.
Navigator, I'm awaiting your command. We must act now.
Look, I gotta think. Just take us 20 miles from here.
Compliance.
What are you doing?
And just skyrockets straight up 20 miles above the Earth.
Take me back!
Compliance.
So then the ship comes straight back down, and then some things pop up from the floor of the ship in some red light colors, and the ship then shapeshifts into
say it again without laughing at the end so I can have a clean cut.
So then the ship shapeshifts. Okay, so then the ship shit, I can't even do it. Okay, it's so weird. Okay, so then the ship shapeshifts into shit. What the hell is going on? This is ridiculous. Okay, so the ship comes down, and then it changes shape.
That's the end of the episode.
Okay,
that's the end of the episode.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
This first-class maneuver allows me to slide through your planet's thick atmosphere. I can move at any speed. I can speak thousands of languages. I can analyze species from civilizations light years beyond your own.
But can you fix this seat?
Compliance.
That's great. Now could you slow down a little?
Compliance.
Cool.
Would you like me to adjust the temperature?
No.
And then the ship stops, like in it's farmland. So because David's got to pee, so he just pees by cows.
It should be mentioned some of the best cow acting ever committed to film. when that cow reacts, like, oh Jesus, the hell was that?
Yeah.
In there somewhere, we start to learn a little backstory, and we learn that the ship has been sent from Phalon to collect species from various planets for study.
On this planet, I chose you. Back on Phalon, we discovered that your inferior species uses only 10% of your brain, so we filled it all the way up with star charts to see what would happen.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of sadistic, but that was their plan. Just cram stuff in there and let's just see what happens.
What happened?
It leaked.
But it's sort of like the Luc Besson movie, Lucy, except for that when she used the rest of her brain, she became like psychokinetic martial arts master, and then she turned into black goo and morphed into a supercomputer.
It is estimated most human beings only use 10% of their brain's capacity. Imagine if we could access 100%. What's going on?
We've merely slipped a new package into your lower tummy, and you're going to transport something very special to us.
Somebody put a bag of drugs inside me. I need you to take it out. It's leaking.
It turns out that when the ship crashed into the electrical towers, it erased the star charts. So he needs the star maps in David's head to get home.
If I'm so inferior, how come you took 8 years to bring me back?
Normally, I take my specimens back in time to the exact moment and place I collected them. Unfortunately, we discovered it was too dangerous for your fragile human body to travel back in time.
Okay, if I can't go back in time, at least take me back to my family.
So then all of a sudden NASA has helicopters.
Spotted him. The boy's outside the ship. Can you keep him on the ground?
So David jumps back on the ship and they take off.
Can you follow it? Follow it? I can't even see it.
So they do a little bit more traveling.
Hey, this is fun.
Fun, Navigator?
My name's David.
David?
So what do I call you anyway?
I am a Trimaxian drone ship from...
Trimaxian?
Affirmative.
Okay, I'll call you Max. It's easier.
And this time, he says, I want you to get me away from these guys.
Just take me somewhere where they can't find us.
Compliant.
Then they plummet to the bottom of the ocean, which is very cool.
Yeah. We also meet, and maybe the best scene in the whole movie, the other species that the ship is carrying back home.
Puppeteered creatures.
Yeah. It's like a menagerie of little incredible little puppets.
Some are in liquid.
Did you write down the names of the puppets, of the creatures?
Did you get them? I mean, other than the Puckmarin.
The Garpunta from South Petralius.
Once he bites, he never lets go.
The Phenostaurus from the Pixar Elliptic.
Weird.
Just like a giant eye.
Which is amazing. Puckmarin from Binpuka Minor.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Hey, little Puckmarin. How long have you been here? What's he saying?
He is angry because I won't take him back to his home planet. He does not know it was destroyed by a comet.
That makes him an orphan.
So cool. You can make a whole movie just about all those creatures.
And those should have been toys back then. There was no merchandising for that stuff. Which
you can get a custom Puckmarin.
Really?
Yep, I've seen them online. They're super expensive, but you can get them.
Wow.
I am ready to perform the mind transfer. Sit here, Navigator.
And now the time has come for Max to pull the star charts out of David's head.
Will this hurt?
You will feel nothing.
Will I remember everything?
You will retain all data.
How many times have you done this thing?
0.
0? You mean never?
He's like, nah, you've never done this before. What's going to happen to me? You'll fry my brain. He's like, nah, you'll be fine. And all it is, they just kind of quick covers him in a laser. He's like, yep, that's it.
But he also picks up his personality. Not necessarily David's personality, but he picks up a personality through this extraction.
Yeah.
And suddenly, this is now when he starts to sound more like Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, because the laugh comes out and...
Whoa! This can't be happening. I think I've gotten some stuff out of your head that has nothing to do with navigating this ship.
You sound just like a human.
No! That dumb dog will never learn to catch a frisbee.
You are an inferior species, you dumb dork.
Butt face.
Ghost bucket.
Meanwhile, Sarah Jessica Parker goes to David's family's house and briefs them on this whole insane space adventure story, which they actually take relatively well, considering.
Yeah, they're very cool with this concept. And then and then the mom turns on the TV and sees stuff about UFOs, and they're just kind of like, yeah, that makes sense,
Well, she was an alien, so
yeah, exactly.
She's seen far worse than a Puckmarin.
Oh, God!
So NASA arrives at the door, and somehow they have the authority to put the family under house arrest. So meanwhile, and this does need to be addressed, David and Max arrive in Tokyo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thinking it's Miami.
Right.
How did we get here?
Oops.
Okay, take us back up.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew this was Tokyo.
You are such a liar. I'm taking over.
And there's a green screen shot of Tokyo, and people just taking pictures of the shit.
Horrible.
It's terrible.
It's horrible. It's terrible. It's the worst shot of the movie by far. It's like the shot in Jaws 3 when the ship comes around and goes totally transparent against the green screen.
Yeah.
It's bad. I mean, I'm a connoisseur of old school effects. Love them.
Yeah.
This is just bad.
So yeah, David's flying the ship now, and he's got these two pads that he's working with each hand that are kind of they move very easily. They flow to kind of help steer the ship. and then they stop a car and ask for directions. It's just got like a bunch of young kids in it, and
yeah, they see the ship and they freak out and drive away.
You wouldn't happen to know the way to Fort Lauderdale, would you?
Try to make your directions clear because we get lost easy.
Boy!
Hey! Thanks for nothing!
After that, Max asks David, what was that sound coming out of their car?
Well, that's called music.
I want to hear more music.
Can you pick up radio waves?
I'm equipped to receive over 2 million forms of radio waves. I can monitor all frequencies of electrical.
Okay. See if you can pick up some signals that sound like what we heard.
This leads to a sort of musical flying sequence set to a Beach Boys song.
Hold it! Now this is music! I'm getting bug driving up and down the same old strip. I gotta find a new place where the kids are hip. See, Max? You gotta move, like this!
Out of that, we do get a dancing Puck Marin.
Welcome to town! I like music!
So Jill Beach, who's the newscaster, she's the one that's doing
You remembered her name? Jill Beach.
Jill Beach.
Well, she was in Daryl, I think.
she's in the other deleted scene of Daryl. But Jill Beach, appropriately named Beach because they're broadcasting from Florida, is talking about UFO sightings.
Bizarre UFO sightings on 2 continents have stirred up a lively debate in the UN. We'll have more at 11.
11.
So then David makes a pit stop to Alligator City, which is just like this rundown gas station. And so this guy who is just massive, if we want to whack, kind of looks like Bull Hurley from Over the Top.
Hi, can I please borrow some change to phone my parents?
And so he's just staring at the ship, not moving a muscle, not saying anything.
Max pokes his head out and fat shames Big Al.
Hey, Blimbo! Oink oink! Too many Twinkies!
He does, doesn't he?
Meanwhile, David calls home and he asks Jeff to give him a signal so he can find his way home.
Just give me a signal that I can see from the air. And don't let the NAS guys know I'm coming. And remember, it's gonna be dark soon.
All right, if I have to set fire to the house, you'll find it.
So this family on vacation, mom, dad, 2 kids stop out.
Dad, can we look at the flying saucer?
Sure, go ahead. Well, your Indian village won't win any awards, but that flying saucer's first rate.
He's like, how do you get the stairs to float? Like, the kids are pressing on the stairs. Like, how are these floating? How are these, doing that?
Doug Henning. That's how.
Doug Henning, yeah, that's right. By the way, Doug Henning has no credits in this at the end. There's no Doug Henning, no thanks to Doug Henning or anything like that in the credits. Which
well,
is
maybe he didn't want to be. Maybe he used a fake name like Paul Mall.
Paul, but that's true. Yeah, it's just like Paul Poof.
What?
Like like something disappears, you go poof, is gone. Paul Poof. So David's done with his phone call. And he gets back in the ship, and the ship takes off. And now Big Al finally speaks.
He just said he wanted to phone home.
So as they approach home, Jeff is writing the signal, which is going to be fireworks on the roof of the house. NASA's closing in, tracking the ship as it heads towards the home.
Sir, tracking says they're on their way up the Florida coastline.
All right, step on it, okay?
Okay.
Jeff sets off the fireworks.
We made it!
We made it!
Thanks for the great ride, Max. It was lots of fun.
It was fun for me too, David.
My friends are never gonna believe this. Oh yeah, my friends are all 20 years old, and I'm only 12.
I'd like to take you back to your own time, but it's just too dangerous. At least now you'll be safe and sound with your family.
David lands the ship.
Come on, circle around behind the boy. Roger. Wait until he's clear before you move in. I think we can isolate him.
He gets off the ship, and as he's coming down the stairs, reality hits him that he is out of his time, life has passed him by, and also that NASA will never leave him alone.
Come away from the ship!
I'm sorry. I don't belong here now. love you. Take me with you, Max.
Climbs back in, tells Max to take him back in time to 1978, despite the danger that he may not survive the trip. And there's a nice little moment between David and Max acknowledging their friendship.
Max? Will I ever see you again?
I don't know. We must start the journey. Hold on tight, Davy.
I'm gonna miss you.
I'm gonna miss you too.
Thanks.
No big deal, really. Come on. Let's get out of here.
Compliance. Navigator.
So there's this chance in this Back to the Future moment here of, going like 88 miles an hour here, like if that this could go wrong and David could die, but he's going to take that chance though, because he says that this is my family but not my home.
So they pass through this sort of time warp, very cool lightning effects and like cloud tank looking type stuff. I don't know how exactly it was done, but it looks cool. David wakes back up in the ravine, right where he landed in 1978. He races home, and at this point we're left to wonder, was it all a dream? His parents call to him from a boat as he gets home.
Hey, David!
He looks out, they're young again.
Come on, let's go!
Right? Yeah, everybody looks good and young and fresh.
The brother's young again. He's not cute anymore. Now he's just goofy looking again. It's the same night as 1978 when he went missing.
Oh, where have you been, young man? Come on.
Now David appreciates what he's almost lost. His parents, his dog.
I love you. Thank you, sweetheart. What brought that on?
Even his jackass little brother.
You mad at me?
No, Jeff. I love you too.
And so they're all on the boat, getting ready to go out to have an evening together. And the Puck Marin pops out of David's backpack, and we realize that it was not a dream after all. The family heads out into the bay, fireworks explode overhead, and we see Max in the ship flying away. Flight of the Navigator.
Man.
The Navigator. You are the Navigator and his crew. Are on the mission of a lifetime.
20,000 feet and falling.
Disney's Flight of the Navigator.
So promotion and merchandising for Flight of the Navigator. Pretty conventional promotional campaign for this movie, and no merchandising whatsoever that I could find.
No, there's lots of great foreign posters of this movie. I mean, just really cool imagery for some of these posters out there, but yeah, that's really about it.
Yeah, no toys, no games, no, I think there was even movie magazines or any of that fun stuff. That I don't even know that there was a novelization.
Wow. You'd think for something for Disney putting their name on it that they would have had stuff like cups
Disney
or
now,
something, like Taco Bell selling some cups or something of,
Disney now would market the hell out.
Get your Flight of the Nachos and got like these, shipped nachos or something like that.
Those Puck Marins would be everywhere. They would be the Porgs if it was now.
Oh, for sure.
So huge missed opportunity there for merchandising. Actually could have upped the profile of the movie too if they'd highlighted some of that stuff.
Like why would you not? You got creatures, kids, spaceships, and I'm just really surprised that you don't attempt to do that.
The only thing I could find was that Disney Channel subscribers could get a Flight of the Navigator pen, or it could have been a Flight of the Navigator pin. But either way, It's like the least exciting toy imaginable.
For a special time only, Disney Channel subscribers can get a free flight of the Navigator pen. Check out the August magazine for details.
The film was released July 30th, 1986. It came out the same weekend as Howard the Duck.
Wow.
And this is crazy. It opened in 9th place.
Wow.
3 million on its opening weekend, which is madness. Aliens was the #1 movie. It's the same chart that we've previously discussed in the Howard the Duck episode. Friday the 13th, #2. Howard was 3. Karate Kid 2. Heartburn. And way down, again, how we talk about we're being haunted by the same titles in this thing. #8, beating out Flight of the Navigator. Nothing in Common.
When showing your love is the last thing you need, why is it always the first thing you do?
You're the last person I thought would ever come through for me.
TriStar Pictures presents a Ray Star production of a Gary Marshall film. It's a comedy and a drama, just like life.
Damn you, Jackie Gleason and your diabetes.
What have you got, a blonde on the other pillar? A redhead with tight jeans with the name across the ass? When I was a kid, we didn't need any name, just an ass.
Total domestic gross is listed as $18.5 million on a $9 million budget. So if you compute in marketing, as pathetic as it seems like the marketing was for this movie, it was truly a cherry bomb. It didn't necessarily make double its budget because of the expense that was put out there in addition to the budget of the movie. So it did receive pretty good reviews, though. So in that sense, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
New York Times, Los Angeles Times, positive reviews. But yeah, it was a pretty well-received movie critically. It just didn't make any money because nobody went and saw it.
Yeah, no Razzie.
No Razzies. I have that on my notes here with a big exclamation point. It's the first movie that we've talked about that did not get any Razzie nominations. Finally. I'm surprised. Based on history, they would have given like the Puck Marin like worst actor.
Oh, for sure.
Do you want to talk about the aftermath? And
so like Joey Kramer apparently he didn't have he didn't do too well later in life. Hopefully he's doing better now. In 2016, he was arrested in connection with a bank robbery in British Columbia, and he did plead guilty to that. So that's kind of sad.
There's a documentary in the works right now by Lisa Downs, who directed Life After Flash, which was a great the great documentary about Flash Gordon and specifically about Sam Jones, the actor of that movie, and sort of the troubles that he had and the redemption story of Sam Jones. Also, just from the standpoint of Flash Gordon, the movie, it's just a treasure trove of behind the scenes stuff and interviews with people from that movie that you cannot find anywhere else. So for that alone, but then you've got the Sam Jones redemption story on top of it. So definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
She's doing a documentary now called Life After the Navigator, which is about, I'm assuming, both the movie and about Joey Kramer himself. And there's a small preview clip that's up right now. Now, by the time you listen to this, the film may be out already. From the clip, hopefully it looks like he's healing and he's finding a new path. And I suspect that he has a lot to say now about this movie's idea of time travel and going back to a simpler, more innocent time and place in his life. So that may be a component of that documentary, but we're definitely looking forward to that.
I was just gonna say, hopefully in that documentary we'll get some, cool interviews too, like the Life After Flash, because to be able to see and hear Clytus talk, in that documentary was a dream come true. So hopefully we'll get some of the stuff that we were looking for this that we couldn't find in that documentary.
There's definitely a lack of Navigator behind the scenes material out there. So if she's gathering that material for the world, then she's doing good work in service of cinema there.
Yeah.
Sarah Jessica Parker does not seem to have any nostalgia or love for Flight of the Navigator.
Oh, how sad.
Apparently she's been pretty dismissive about the movie, and she's been quoted as saying she doesn't even know what the movie's about.
Oh, man.
Terrible.
Ugh. Well, hopefully, if all of you out there have a DVD cover of Flight of the Navigator and you're going to run into her, see if you can get it signed then.
Right. Let's start a campaign. Everybody take your Flight of the Navigator DVD
yeah.
or Blu-ray.
Yeah.
That's all.
Only those things.
Only those things. Only Flight. No more Sex and the City anything anymore.
Right, because either she'll sign it or she'll look upset.
Either way, you win.
So that's a win-win situation.
So, May of 2009, the Hollywood Reporter had reported that Disney was writing a remake of the film. That did not come to pass. And then in November of 2012, Disney hired Colin Trevorrow, who directed a great movie called Safety Not Guaranteed and a not great movie called Jurassic World. And he was meant to direct Star Wars Episode 9, but was let go on creative differences with Kathleen Kennedy.
Which is par for the course.
Which is par. I mean, if you work in the industry and you haven't been fired by Kathleen Kennedy, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
But so he was going to do a version of the film. That did not come to pass. And then in September 2017, Lionsgate and the Jim Henson Company announced that they were going to reboot it.
I'm very happy to know Jim Henson Company will be involved. So
yes, if it happens.
Either whether it ends up being good or bad, you get excited when you hear Jim Henson Company's involved.
You kind of don't want it to be remade because, why try to fix what's never been broken? But, that seems like that's what everyone does now is remake movies. I think we're okay with Flight of the Navigator as it is.
Yeah.
It really holds up in a different kind of way. As a kid, it's a fun space adventure. It's a wish fulfillment type thing. As an adult, you recognize that it has these sort of surprisingly adult themes, which I guess all great so-called children's movies have, that they will continue to resonate through your whole life. And this one is it's about time and the things that we love being so connected to the time that we knew them in.
Right.
I think it speaks a lot to this podcast even, and how a lot of these movies are special for us because of when we saw them. And this movie might not speak to us if we saw it now for the first time in our 40s.
It's true. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. You're absolutely right. And even if some of these movies that we do go back and we watch, not necessarily Cherry Bomb specifically, but some of these movies that we saw as a kid that we really remember and they don't work out today, still so grateful that they were there.
Yeah.
David was kidnapped by aliens.
The Navigator.
Now he's in for the ride of his life. The exciting conclusion of Flight of the Navigator, Sunday on Disney.
In November 2019, we were lucky enough to attend at the good old Egyptian Theater the Flight of the Navigator cast and crew reunion screening. Everybody was there. Randall Kleiser, Joey Kramer, Howard Hesseman, Matt Adler, Tim Blaney, who was the puppeteer for Max, who also had previously done the voice of Johnny Five in Short Circuit, which he performed for us live on the night.
Wow.
How about a little more of that voice? People seem to love it.
No disassemble.
Raymond Forsheim was there as well. He played the detective who returned David to his parents.
Yeah.
And he kind of summed it up better than anybody.
I gotta say that for me, what's been really great about it, when you think about all the time that this movie has been there, is how often I have actually been recognized from this film. But the thing is you get to do a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff nobody ever remembers. Okay? And to be able to be involved with a film like this, where not only do people remember the film, it's like you're the detective. They have such a good feeling about the film. The other thing is I think we all at some point or another would love to just be able to go home, if home was a place you want to go, and this film really captures that. And the idea of going home and not, home is different. It's like I went to my hometown a few years ago, and it was just like, that's not really what I thought it would be. It has changed.
Do you have any final thoughts on Flight of the Navigator?
Yeah, so if you're listening, so first of all, Wikipedia lied, because that's where I happened, because I knew I saw it somewhere. So Wikipedia lied, unless someone out there can find a deleted scene of Mr. Joe Kramer as Johnny Klein and Daryl. Like, that's just so bizarre that he's not, like, I need to find Daryl now and like see like this uncredited. Like I just want to see his face in the background somewhere, so I can Not that I need. I mean, Wikipedia should do that so they can be right. Not me.
Don't trust your Wikipedia. Anyone can get in there.
No. Oh my God.
We will revisit the Johnny Klein.
Yeah, Johnny Klein.
We're gonna revisit the Johnny Klein mystery in Daryl.
That's so weird.
In the meantime, revisit Flight of the Navigator or check it out for the first time. Definitely show it to your kids if you have kids. It's a perfect kids movie, and it still works for an adult.
Absolutely. And if you just want to, bring it back into your daily lives, anytime you need to say the word yes, just say compliance.
Yeah.
Which is what Max says all the time when, something's going on and he agrees.
Let's make that a thing. Let's make it happen.
Compliance.
You
want to go to the store? Compliance.
Was Joey Kramer and Daryl?
Non-compliance, yeah.
Thanks for listening, and remember, never apologize for the movies you love.
No.